Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another presentation of the RLSA Today podcast. I am your host, Chase, followed along by my good friend here, Ashatoon.
Yo,
How are we doing today, Ashton?
pretty good, man. Pretty good. It's a rainy Monday, but I guess it's a little bit more exciting when you get to talk about the RLSA.
I guess so. And I mean, over here in the big OH, looking pretty cloudy, nothing too great either. So we have we have a good little podcast though set in stone. I mean, we can go ahead and get right into it. Of course, we're always going to
So,
start out every podcast with the previous week recap. So in this case, week three. Um, I mean, anything that really stood out to you, Ashton?
well, I think as far as the matches go in week three, there were some good ones out there. I think starting off, I think the Eradicators Quantum series was super entertaining. Obviously, the ending was a little anticlimactic. 10-0 in Game 7 if you missed it. The Eradicators they were on the ropes, though, I will say. Quantum looked really good, and I think they proved that they're a pretty good team, a lot better than we initially thought, and they've just been climbing up both of our rankings each week. So that was a pretty exciting matchup. I think another one that was good, Elite Bobcats. I didn't get a chance to watch it. Obviously, it wasn't streamed, but just by looking at the score lines and seeing what happened and the reactions from the players, it seems like Elite are for real and they're playing well. They're improving, kind of in a similar spot to Quantum, where every week it seems like they're getting better, and it's pretty exciting to see a team that struggled early in the Elite kind of figure things out and continue getting better. So that's obviously exciting. What about you, Chase?
I mean, yeah, talking about excitement. I mean, we've seen. I mean, just like you mentioned, that Eradicators Quantum match. I mean, that was something that did stand out to me. I think that was an amazing series. Obviously, Game Seven wasn't as exciting, but
Yeah.
Um, I think this. I think after this week we have a solidified 1-2, um, or
Mm.
a 1-12 team, right? You look at the RLSA teams. I think now you see the Volts as just the number one team, and then
Mm.
I mean that's and also when you look at least if maybe some people have the Eradicators still, but I mean when you look at the Volts, they have two sweeps in one game five. So if you're looking at the numbers statistically, then the Volts are the best team in the league. And then you look at the numbers again in number 12. Everybody's got the Stars. They haven't even won a game. Um, so I think that's something that kind of stood out to me is now we have a solidified bottom team and a solidified top team, and then like you said in that midfield, right? We were looking at Elite Bobcats. That was a big game for the Elite to just really show. Obviously, again, no stream, but then you also I think it was a good game for the Fire too. I think it was the first matchup they had with the new teammate Caleb, and he was able to perform really well in his RLSA debut. They got that game five win, and that was their best series this week or this season so far was in week three. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that was a standout match too. But week three did have a lot in store, just based off the games. But Ashton, there was something that did go down
It's true.
in the middle of this week, and that was a trade that happened between the Riot and the Defenders, and
Yeah.
it was kind of an interesting one as we see here. Rich actually came out of retirement. So when a player comes out of
Yeah.
retirement, the team that they previously played for has their signing rights. So the Defenders had the signing rights to Rich. They actually traded that away to the Riot in exchange for Psycho, and that was a shocking trade in my
Yeah.
opinion. Ashton, what's your go-to thoughts on this trade?
Yeah, that was the first thing. It was just maybe not shocking or surprising, because I think I know personally the Defenders, they were excited to get Rich on their team. They were excited that he was coming out of retirement. It was kind of like this big deal, and obviously not entirely sure what happened there to warrant a trade. It could possibly be that yes, the Defenders were super excited to get Rich, but maybe they had their eyes on something else. Maybe they were looking for Psycho coming from the Riot, and they had their eyes on him for a while, and they just didn't have the assets to get the trade done before, and now they do. That's kind of where I'm leaning on this, because I will say that I know for sure the defenders are not happy with how KO played last week, and uh, I think that without seeing it, obviously there could be some issues there. Um, and I know that the defenders have struggled this season, so I think there's a lot of frustration there. So it's tough to say exactly what happened behind closed doors, so to speak. But to me, it's a bit of a head scratcher because it's like, where is this move coming from? What's the motive? Um, like to me, if you're the Riot, you just got your first win of the season in a sweep, and then you go ahead and trade him away after that. So, that is a little bit of a head scratcher. I know the Riot have some moving pieces with Apple coming back off the UP list, and obviously Rich is a great player. So, I think the Riot won this trade personally. But yeah, I don't know.
Well,
I think it's hard to get inside the heads of the other team, but yeah, it's interesting to say the least.
well, we still have to see what Rich has, right? I mean, we look at the paper, right? We see a new peak of 1,700 from him, but again, we haven't seen Rich anywhere. I mean, this dude just came out of retirement out of nowhere,
Yeah,
so we still need to see something. I mean, I'm more shocked at the fact that this trade happened due to the fact that Riot's manager just never answers the phone. But, uh, but no, I mean,
he
honestly,
answers
though,
it for
yeah, I
who he
think
likes.
real. Uh, I think I do think it's an interesting trade though. I'm not sure if I'm Riot, I would be willing to move Psycho just instantly like that. But I think
Yeah,
um, as the defenders, if you're, if you root for the defenders or even just the defenders organization in general, I think that was a solid move because you've already established what Psycho has to offer,
it's fair.
right? And we know there's some chemistry along that team with him, and I think with Rich just not being a big question mark. Obviously, it's. I mean, this is a high risk, high reward trade. I think if you're right, you're trading away a pretty good starter in exchange for an unknown, but maybe a higher ceiling starter, right? So I do think that this is, in my opinion, going to even out as a trade. I don't think Rich is gonna come back as a amazing, you know. I mean, like honestly, may I just say, Riot have him on the bench right now. He's not even starting, so they just traded a starter, or I guess I don't know if you would still consider Psycho a starter on that team because we look at it, it's Apple and Geegan, right? So that's your starting roster for Riot. So I think you can throw Psycho in that mix, but now it's Rich's turn to maybe get thrown into that mix. So I just think it's Riot trying to figure out who's established as a starter on that team. I think they've had four really even equal players that have gone through that roster, and they're just trying to figure out what is the right duo to
Yeah.
keep going forward in this season. And I think Rich could be um a good face for that team, right? I think he's gonna bring some new light to that team. But again, he's still starting that role. And for the defenders, they walk away with Psycho in this trade. They already know what they have in Janky and KO, obviously. And so, and I mean, last thing I want to say about this is defenders pulled this trade out of midair, right? I mean, they weren't even expecting Rich to come back. All of a sudden, now you have a free asset to get a good player.
It's true.
So, that's just a win in the defenders' book, in my opinion. They have
Yeah.
nothing to lose. So this was an interesting trade that happened, but um, that's basically what happened in week 3. But Ashton, I think now we have a new segment that is kind of interesting. So I want you to start us off with it. This new segment is just literally it's just our hot takes.
Yep.
So we have each, me and Ashton both will come up with a hot take within this week or so. So this might be
Yeah.
not a weekly thing, but definitely it might have reappear again. But this is a hot take that me and Ashton have both came up with. So Ashton, what is your
Hmm.
hot take?
Yeah, I say it's hot only because of where things stand right now. Obviously, we don't know how things are going to play out, but for me, uh, it's about a team in particular that we were just talking about, the Riot. I think the Riot are going to make the playoffs, and the reason
Oh,
why this is a hot take in my book is I know where we have him on them on our power rankings. They've been in the bottom 4 range, like on both of our power rankings, basically the whole season, especially recently. And they got their first win this week, and obviously for them, they just played against the Stars. So, not a great litmus test as to how good the team is, but a win is a win. And the reason why I feel as confident as I do is a lot of the underlying stats and metrics do favor the Riot. And so, what I mean by that is when you look at the standings table, there are certain teams that stand out to you, especially with that goal differential. So when you look at the top of the league, the Volts and the Eradicators they're just ahead of everyone, especially the Volts at plus 42. Insane margin. You can look and see the Bandits, they stick out. They're at a plus 23, right? The Fire, they're dead even. So I think you can learn a lot about a team and how good they are based on their goal differential. And something that stuck out to me was in the midst of all of these negatives and minuses on the standings, I noticed that the Riot, despite being 1 and 2, stood at a +6 goal differential. I thought that was really interesting, and it does factor into the eye test that we've seen. If you remembered week 1, Eradicators Riot, they played them close. Like every single game was pretty close, except for I think the last game, everything kind of fell apart. But the Riot, they took a game off of the Eradicators, which is pretty impressive. Until the Quantum had finally come and taken some games off of them. So I think that is a really good team that they took a game off of. They took them to overtime. And again, those are games where it's like, these are coin flips, essentially. And then, yeah, week 2, the Riot, they're playing against Quantum, who are kind of like the golden boys right now as far as the RLSA is concerned. Everybody loves them. They're making great progress. They're shooting up the power rankings. They're winning games. And that game went to 6. Went to 6 games. I mean, a couple games go a different way. You never know what's going to happen. But ultimately, they get the win here in this week. And to me, I like the trade they made for themselves. I like Apple coming off of the UP list. I think they have experience. They have talent. And I think that their schedule moving forward is going to allow them to show what they're made of, because they play the Fire this week. They have a real opportunity to do something. Then they play the Volts in week 5. That's a tough series, but they have an opportunity there. Then after that, it's the Bandits. And then it starts to get a little bit easier. They play the Amigos and they play the Defenders. And so I think towards the end of the season, the schedule will start to open up a little bit. And I think when it's all said and done, the Riot are going to make the playoffs.
Man, I mean, as we look at it now, I believe that's a fair hot take. I do think when you look at the standings now, they're ranked 9th, and I can see, with the stats and the schedule that they have ahead of them. I mean, it's a pretty solid hot take. But again, this is something that Riot need to prove. It's not like the schedule is just going to get easier because you're facing weaker. I mean, these teams are going to get better every week, right? So Riot, they also have to be playing catch up and getting better each week. So It's a fair hot take. Well, I have one that's might be a little bit not as hot, but in my opinion, I think it's about the Eradicators as a team, and I think the Eradicators, when it comes time around the playoffs, I don't think this team is gonna even. They might. I mean, they're definitely not making the cup. I think they're going to drop out, maybe first round, if not second round, 100%.
So do you think they're gonna have a bye?
I don't think so. I think the Volts are gonna take the bye. I mean, what is the bye would be second ranked, right?
First and second, yeah, they get buys.
First and second. Even if they do get a bye, let's say they do get a bye. All right, I'll play this case scenario as well. They're not gonna win a game in the playoffs if they have a bye. Then, I mean, I just this Eradicators team. You look at the roster, right? You have Monk and Echo. Echo's already made a name for himself. That dude is insane, right? No. But I do think at the end of the day, this Eradicators team is not as good as people think. Even though, yes, they're winning games. They're 3-0. They haven't lost. I mean, it's just you can only do so much in this league. And a player like Monk, you got to look at the ego. You got to look at the cockiness from this team. It's
Oh,
not. This is a team that I don't think is that good when it comes time for clutch. Let me say that when it's clutch time, they got challenged by a team that they should have. I mean, Quantum, give or take, they're in my opinion they're getting better. Right, there might be a top 4, top 5 team, but at the same time, this Eradicators team should be playing like a number 1 team, and trust me, they're not. They're not going to be that good when it comes time. And we look at the stats, right? Monk, he's doing a lot, right? He's got 54 saves on the season so far. He's averaging, 3.38 saves a game. But I just think when you look at the goals too, he's got 53 goals, but I feel like when you look at these stats, half of these stats are just padded stats, right? I mean, they won 10-1 against the Quantum team that gave up in Game 7, right? After maybe they were down by 3, they gave up, and then you get another 6 goals out of that game. Sure, whatever, that don't matter. Those 6 goals do not matter. Um, then you look at the saves too. I mean, Echo, if he whiffs a ball, it just goes straight onto Monk's car, right? And that's going to be considered a save. So you can't take these stats seriously compared to other teams that have, more equal skill between the players that actually have to. If this makes sense, I don't know if you're following along, but if Monk is getting free saves just because he's able to, play off a whiff from his teammate. If you're a duo team, you're not playing off whiffs with each other. Each player is actually having to make decent saves, so those stats seem more real. Um, and I think with this Eradicators team, these teams these teams are only going to get better. And when you have two strong players that are going to get better, it's harder for a weaker player and a really good player to just get better as a team, right? You already have a solidified team that knows that one player is weaker and the other player is better. So I think all said and done, the Eradicators are just not going to be that strong of a team when it comes playoff time.
yeah. I mean, I think I'll push back a little bit. I think that you assume the difference between a top 1 or 2 team and a top 4 or 5 team should be big. I don't think it's big anymore. I don't think there's a big gap between the good and bad teams anymore. So I think the Eradicators playing close in a series against Quantum, I have no issue with. I would only have the issue with if they couldn't finish it out. Um, and I mean, I
Well,
think you could make the same argument for other teams that played close games. Like, why did the Fire play and go into a game 7 against a bottom 3 team in the league? Why did that happen? Especially when they're playing with their sub. I think you could make that case for a lot of things, but the big thing is they got the job done. So,
I mean,
um,
but may I also mention, I don't know if I said it or not, but I think this Eradicators team, the cockiness and the ego side of that team,
they're just having
is
fun.
what's gonna it. I mean, it's gonna bring the downfall, though. I do
It
think
could.
I think this Eradicators team isn't. They talk the talk, but as they have so far, they've walked the walk, but they won't be able to come playoff time.
Okay. All right.
But with all that aside, those are just me and Ashton's hot takes. Throw your hot takes in the server. It's always fun just to talk about them. But let's go ahead and get into our last 2 subheadings. We always do them. Let's go into our power rankings, and then we'll do our week 4 predictions. But
Mm-hmm.
as our power rankings stand, I'll go ahead and lead us off if that's all right. I think not much is gonna change here. So far the top teams, but we do have some changes, but in my number 1, it's still gonna be the Volts, and I think they've done enough. That you sweep the Amigos, which again, Amigos they're not as great as a team, but the Volts they just show up, they do their business, and they leave, and they're continuing to do that. No reason for them to move from the number 1 spot.
Yeah, fair enough. I have the same reasoning at my 1. I have the Eradicators at 1. It's the exact same reasoning. They're the number 1 team until they're beaten, right? I think currently the only team that could beat them is one of these top 3, 4, maybe 5 teams. Because I think, like I said, the competition is really good within the top couple teams. I don't think we're in a league anymore where there's one, two, or maybe three teams that are capable of winning the cup. I think we have a ton of teams that are incredibly talented and could win a series against these top two teams. Um, that's kind of where I stand. I think if Quantum had won the game against the Eradicators, that wouldn't really change how I feel about the Eradicators. It would change how I feel about Quantum, if you know what I mean. Where the
Yeah.
Eradicators, they're such a good team, such a strong team. They're currently sitting at second in the standings. They're at plus 24 goal differential. Um, I think it hasn't been as dominant as the Volts have been, but I have no reason to move them down because they keep winning games. And even when the Volts and Eradicators do play, I genuinely think that's going to be a coin flip match. That's going to be such a close game. It could probably go to 7 games. It's at least going to go to 6 games, so long as all the starters are playing. So I can't move the Eradicators down. I'm still just as impressed by them, even after playing a good Quantum team. If anything, I respect them a little bit more because they faced some adversity and they were able to show that, okay, oh, we're down 3-2 in this series. Let's put together 2 wins, come back, win this series in dominating fashion, and show that we are that #1 team. That's the way I look at it.
All thanks to Echo. The Echo flick. We saw that
Yep.
mechanic pulled out in that series. So that was good. That was a good showing. But I mean, fair take, right? I mean, it's kind of gonna be the same thing. I mean, let's brush through it real quick. My number 2, the Eradicators. I mean, they didn't lose. They're still at number 2.
Yeah, pretty simple. I have the Volts at number 2 as well, so our 1 and 2 are the same. I do still think these are our 2 best teams. I think there still is like a little line after these teams. I think it's starting to blur a little bit. And I think the Quantum are a good example of that because they're starting to blur the lines of, oh, where exactly are we drawing this line between these top teams, these upper playoff teams, and like the midfield teams? Where are we drawing these lines at? So I think we're learning more about these teams, but I still think the Volts, they haven't lost a game. They only have 1 game loss the entire season, which is incredibly impressive. And then, of course, that plus 42 goal differential, it's hard to argue with that. They are dominating their opponents. I don't think they've really had a true test yet this season, but I still think that they've been doing everything they need to do, and they've been dominating teams along the way.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. I think this is what you said. These are our solidified top 2 teams so far in the regular season. But in my number 3, I think it's still the same. Yeah, is I still have Fire in my number 3 spot. I think they only got better after we talked about how was Caleb gonna play in that series in his debut, and Fire showed out. They got the job done in pretty good fashion here in game 5. That's when that series ended, and I think Fire, again, like you say, they're always going to. It's a week by week improvement from this team, and I think that's my top 3, and I don't think it's going to change for a while.
Yeah, makes sense. I before I do my 3, I forgot I was gonna give my flowers to Program, #1 in goals per game, leading the way in scoring, and then Grinding, his teammate, proving to be a valuable support player. He's at #2 in assists in the league, #2 in assists per game. So that's impressive.
Yeah, grinding has been impressive.
Yeah,
for sure.
absolutely.
Shout out to grinding.
My number 3 is a team that's moving up 2 spots. That is Quantum.
Ooh.
I have Quantum at my 3 spot, and they are leapfrogging the team in 4th, if you remember from last week. So for me, it's simple. They're the most exciting team in the league. They took the Eradicators, a consensus 1 or 2 team in the league, backed by Mr. E. They took them to Game 7. Really impressive showing. I didn't love how they closed it out, but what they proved is they're capable of beating the Eradicators, and I think with that, capable of beating anyone. So that is really exciting to me. They have a controversial home stadium. That's also something I want to bring out. But the thing I love is that they are owning it and they are taking it and using it to their advantage. That's what I love. I have never seen somebody love Starbase Arc as much as the Quantum team does right now. Like I don't, maybe they just feel at home there, literally. But obviously they're the only ones that like that stadium. Former competitive standard stadium, out of rotation now. But they seem to be liking it night or day. They'll be playing on Starbase Arc, so good luck to everybody coming in there. And then for me, they need to focus on their defense first. That's the best place where they can improve because they allowed 10 goals to the Eradicators in Game 7. And for me, they have a great week to get back on track, get a win versus the Defenders. We know that that's a difficult team to play against, a difficult team to win against, so it'll be a good one for them.
Yeah, I think kind of going with you in your thoughts here with this Quantum team, they're going to be in my number 4. They did jump up one spot, and I think that's just because they solidified themselves as they are willing to compete with top teams. And I think on paper, we expected this. I mean, I know I did expected this team to be good, but they are showing out. They are the golden boys of the league right now. And I don't think, even though they did take this Eradicators team to 7, I don't think they're quite enough ready to be put in that top 3, like, in my opinion, like you. Just because, this is still a team that was able to compete. They've done what they've needed to do, but so has these, in my opinion, the 3 teams I have ahead of them. They've done that as well. So I think this Quantum team, on paper, these top 3 teams in my book are better, and they've still done what they've needed to do to keep those top 3 spots. And I think Quantum, they're still jumping, and I wouldn't be surprised if they jump even more. But for right now, they're at my number 4.
Yeah, I have the Fire here at 4 for me. They're not going to be at 3, and they do get a win this week. They stay in the win call. They get back in the win column against the Landers, and that was a good matchup here. The reason why I have Quantum jumping them is pretty simple. Quantum, when they faced a test against a top team in the league, they looked good. They looked like they could beat them. The Eradicators, for the first time this season, looked mortal. It looked like they could bleed. When the Fire faced their test against a top team in the league, they got the brakes beat off of them, respectfully. It was 5 games. I think that, yes, maybe it was a little bit closer than the final scoreline says, but they got destroyed in that week 2 matchup, and it didn't really seem like they were any good against the Volts, to be completely
Can I throw
honest with
something
you.
in here real quick?
I was just going to say that they made a trade. They're a different team
They did
now,
make a trade.
and they're going to continue to improve, but regardless, what happened. So I have no reason to put the Fire above Quantum right now. They have not proven anything to me. They squeaked out a win against the Amigos. They got belt to the Volts, and they beat a struggling Landers team. To me, yes, they are getting the job done, but they gotta prove a little bit more for me. I think Quantum have proved more.
All right, man, screw you, bro. I don't care about professionalism anymore, bro. Screw this. No, but I mean, that is fair. So, in my number 5, this is where I think things are about to get interesting in my list. I think this is where you're gonna be like, what happened? Because I said screw it, bro. I'm just putting however I feel at this point.
Do it.
In my number 5, I have the Elite. And this Elite team, I'm gonna tell you right now, these first 3 weeks, and I still think it, but I can't bet against them. I think What's G, this could go in a hot take too. I think What's G potentially has bust potential. I don't think he's lived up to the number 2 pick, but at the same time,
all right.
But let me tell you why this Elite team is doing well. Not because of What's G playing amazing, but it's because Under is taking control in these games, and he is finding a way to utilize his teammate and really open up the gates for his teammate. And that's where I think What's G is going to thrive. I don't think on his own he's doing what Elite have expected of him. But at the same time, Under is doing his thing on this team, in this Elite team. Now, after that 4-2 win against the Bobcats, this team looks legit, and in my opinion, have solidified themselves now back into what we thought they were on paper as a good top 5 team, and they are now in that top 5 for me.
outside of the bust potential part, I'm just gonna ignore that. I have the Elite at 5 as well. They're gonna jump up a spot to me. Chase, you can go back to the first episode of the podcast. I've been an Elite truther since day one. I was really concerned after their week 1 performance, but they're right back on track to where I knew they were gonna get to. Here's what I'm gonna say: the week 1 disaster that's in the rearview mirror now, right? Obviously, what happened has happened. You can't erase that from the standings or the stats book, but they can continue forward as a team, and they must continue riding the momentum and winning. And they have the toughest test that they've had so far this season. They're going to have to play the Eradicators this week, and that should be a really exciting matchup and another litmus test for them.
Yeah, no, that's I like that we both have Elite. We see Elite as the top 5. You have been a truther, but they did fall off, but now they're back. Started from I don't know, that's never mind. They didn't start from the bottom. I was trying to reference another Drake song. All right, let's go to number 6. Now this was more interesting. I have the Bandits
Crazy.
at 6, and it might be crazy, but at the same time, you're looking at it. I think in week 4, this is their big test. We'll get into that later, but when you look at the standings, the Bandits, they have done what they've needed to do. They're in that 6th spot in the standings. So it's not like this is too far off of what's actually reality. But I think the Bandits, here's something about the Bandits. They had such a slow start. But this team is starting to figure it out, and I think with this Bandits team, the only reason why I have them a little bit higher is because the Bandits, you look at the teams that are under them, these teams are not performing on the level of the Bandits. They could potentially be better than the Bandits, but they haven't done so. And I think that's where the Bandits have made that big jump. They're starting to get the wins. They're starting to play better as a team. And you also look at it on paper, this is a 3,400 MMR team. They're near the cap, so they have the potential to keep rising up. And I think they've made that jump of, okay, now out of all the mid-tier teams, this might be the best one. So that's why I have them at 6 here in week 4.
Yeah, I can understand that. For me at 6, it's going to be a little bit different. I have the Bobcats at 6, and this is them dropping 3 spots. Obviously, the Elite, they did jump them. They moved up a spot. Quantum moved up 2. So that's how the Bobcats fall down to this 6th spot. And, it could be looked at as a little harsh for losing one series against a good team in 6 games. That could be looked at as harsh, dropping them 3 spots. They are a top 3 team on paper, but so far it's only been on paper. They're still struggling to be consistent. They desperately need to put up some big wins, and the games have been either too close or they've lost them. That's honestly been the story of the season for them. They haven't looked dominating. Even in their wins, they haven't looked dominating. So that's, to me, a big reason why they're falling. And officially, finally, yes, they did play a good team, and they did take them to 6 games, but they didn't get the job done. So it's like they're either playing really close games against teams that they should be beating, or it's they're losing games. So that is not the mark of a good team. That's the mark of a midfield team, and that's what they are currently. Not going to discredit them being 2-1, but they have a lot of difficult matches upcoming. But I think a big thing here is, to me, they have a chance to prove that they're a playoff-capable team with a win this week versus the Landers. I know the Landers aren't the best team, but this is a prime example of a game that they should go in and win. And if they can go in, win it, and hopefully maybe it doesn't even look close, maybe it's a 4-0 or a 4-1 or just a dominant 4-2, then I think we will get back on the right track of thing for the Bobcats.
Yeah, and I'm kind of following you here. In my number 7, I have the Bobcats, and I think this is a big drop for the Bobcats. And again, they're 2-1, so you can't really discredit the wins that they pulled together, but at the same time, you can discredit the loss that they had against the Elite and just the overall gameplay we've seen. It's been close to the teams that they should be beating, and like you said, they lose to the teams that are good. And it is the mark of a midfield team, but in my opinion, again, it's the cockiness. They come in, they say they can beat any team, but then you look at it and it's rough, right? And I think this Bobcats team, they just have a lot to prove to bring themselves back up. And like you said, this could be a good week against the Landers, even though the Landers, again, they're going to find themselves in a midfield spot. If they can be able to, if they can just at least show out against the Landers, and I would love to
Hmm.
see anything less than a game five, right? I think if you can win that series in five or less, um, that's a great showing because this Landers team will be a midfield team, and if you can prove that, hey, we at least can beat you can pretty much dominate a midfield team, that kind of reels you back into that top, that playoff top six contention. So I think for the Bobcats, they've fallen off a cliff. They're not playing well, but this is a great chance for them to bring it back.
I don't know if they've fallen off a cliff, but yeah, you are right. They aren't
Well, I
playing.
mean, they were in my number one going into the first week of the
Well, I
season.
mean, I think
So
we
now
all
you
knew
find
that was
yourselves at
wrong,
seven.
but yeah, I
Right,
think we all knew that was wrong.
on
But
paper, brother, the highest ranked team.
listen, that can only take you so far. On paper, only takes you so far. Yeah, for me at 7, I have the Bandits, and so obviously we just keep like flip flopping teams,
Flip flops. Flip
basically.
flops.
Yeah, for me, I have the Bandits moving up one spot. Kind of a similar story to the Bobcats, where they have great talent on paper, and I do think it's starting to come together for them. Uh, they have a fantastic goal differential. I've brought this out already at plus 23. That's third best in the league, underlying metrics. But they have a massive test this week. They're going to be playing the Volts, who are a top 2 team in this league. And I think the goal for the Bandits, while it should be a win, I think it's just to look good. I think they need to be in a quantum situation where they just look good against the team. If the Bandits can take the Volts to 6 or 7 games, I think I would count that as a win, just like from like an eye test perspective. In the books of the Bandits, if they can somehow manage an upset win, fantastic. That's great. I think that catapults them up the rankings. But to me, I think their realistic goal is just to make that series close, keep the games close, and just look good throughout the series and continue growing. I think I will say my main issue with the Bandits is their strength of schedule. They lost to the Quantum, they beat the Stars, and then they beat the Defenders. So again, not the greatest strength of schedule. I think this is a huge test for them, and I think it will really show where these midfield teams sit at, specifically the Bandits.
Yeah, and the strength of schedule is something to note, but at the same time, the strength of schedule for the Bandits side of things, the Defenders, they have been praised more than not going into the season, and then you look at the Bobcats. I mean, I'm just talking about our flip flop here. The Bobcats, their strength of schedule hasn't been great either. I mean, the Bandits at least beat the Defenders, right? Then you see a game 7 with the Bobcats, and then the Elite, they lose to Elite. So, I mean, it's really close in my opinion. I don't mind us flip flopping it, but in my number 8, kind of already talked about them while I was talking about the Bobcats. It's the Landers. I think the Landers, after last week against the Fire, it's not looking great for them. They're 1-2. They lose into 6 against the Elite. They lose in 5 against the Fire. So those top 5 ranked teams, like, it's not close with the Landers, and I think the Landers, they're kind of solidifying themselves as a mid team, and I think the Landers, again, this would be a great win for them if they win this week. I think, again, this is the Bobcats and Landers pivotal. This is a pivotal match,
Yeah.
for them to jump one each other and just to see within the midfield, does one of them at least have a chance to get back into that top 6 contention? But the Landers, as of right now, are still in my 8.
Yeah, I think we can agree here. I have the Landers at 8 myself. Um, they need to find consistency. They need to take advantage of their opportunities. I feel like on stream and in games, I'll watch and they'll have an opportunity, whether it's an open net goal, a 2-on-1, and they're just not taking advantage of their opportunities. And to me, I don't know if they're taking it as seriously as they should. Um, and then I wrote down this point that, I mean, they have some loud characters on the team, some loud players, and I'm a little bit concerned now at this point because they're 1-2 now, so they're on the losing side of things, and games are not going to get easier to win as the season goes on. Is it too much talk and not enough walk with this Landers team? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, but that's something that I've noted. But I think they have a big opportunity, as you mentioned. They're playing a struggling Bobcats team. This is their chance to get back in the win column. You can look at it from both perspectives as, oh, the Landers, they're playing a struggling Bobcats team. This is an opportunity for them, or the Bobcats, where they're like, all right, we're playing a bit of a weaker team here. We should be able to get the job done. I think it's two different perspectives here, and it should be a good game to see. I think really it's sort of a must-win game for both of these teams, and will probably have massive implications with the playoffs as the season goes forward.
Yeah. And I think it's pretty simple having the Slanders team at 8. Again, the talk is there, right? But my number 9, I have they jump up 2 spots, and I think I was a little harsh, but at the same time, still need to see more out of this team. It's the Riot. And you mentioned it as your hot take, they'll make the playoffs. Well, it's all starts right now. And tonight they'll play the Fire, and I think if you're gonna play the Fire, this is a great opportunity for you to make a name for yourself. If you're going to, if the Riot want to follow along with your hot take. But I think this Riot team, they do make the trade, right? They now have an established 4 players on that roster, but really 3 that are going to be fighting for that starting spot. And again, they still are cycling out. They still don't have a solidified duo. I mean, they trade Psycho. So this Riot team, yes, they beat the worst team in the league, but they did get a sweep. So it could be a little bit of momentum going into this next week's matchup. But Riot, again, still kind of the bottom of the barrel. They're the best bottom team, if that makes sense.
Yeah, fair enough. I think I've held that position all season so far. For me, it's the Riot. They stay where they are at 9, and I considered moving them up, but I didn't think that the Landers loss was worthy of dropping them 2 spots, so I just kind of left it as it is. And yeah, you mentioned it. They got their first one of the season in a 4-0 sweep versus the Stars. I think if it's the Volts or the Eradicators that do this, we're kind of like, okay, great, you did what you're supposed to do. Let's move on. The Riot, if we're going to consider them a bottom level team, you would assume that bottom level teams would play close with one another. That wasn't the case. The Riot looked really good. They dominated the Stars. It wasn't close. And I think that that's important, and they need to build on that. And I'm curious to see what the roster will look like after the trade that they made. And now they have Rich on the team. So it's going to be Geegan, Apple, and Rich, I believe, is their starting 3 guys right now. I don't know how the rotation's going to be, but those are their 3 main guys. And yeah, they have an important game against the Fire, and they need to look strong. But how many times can a team just look strong before they actually get some wins in the win column? Just looking strong is not going to get you into the playoffs. They need to put together some wins. And who knows, maybe they can get a series together. They put a game against the Eradicators in week 1. They put 2 games up against Quantum in week 2. And then in week 3, they get the win. They seem to be slowly improving without people noticing too much. So, who knows what's going to happen here against the Fire.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's fair. You've had him at 9, so shout out to you for not changing on that. But at my number 10, this is where I think a lot of people might be wondering what happened, because I was high on the Amigos a week ago. I was. I mean, I was arguing with you. We had a debate about it, that they weren't going to be a bottom team. Well, Ashton, go ahead and throw that up.
Oh,
The
yeah, baby.
Amigos.
Oh, yeah.
The Amigos are they find themselves in their 10 spot, and I am a man enough to admit that you were more than correct on that take. And I think, again, I had the faith, maybe it was the first time Jaden plays against the Eradicators, right? Or the first time Jaden plays with Caleb against the Eradicators, so there's an excuse for that 4-0 loss. Well, now you've solidified 1 week. Now it's go time, and then you play against the Volts again. Granted, top two teams back to back week. That's a hard, that's a hard schedule just back to back. But you get swept again, and that is just a sign of a team that cannot compete. It's just they cannot compete, and I wouldn't be shocked if this Amigos team doesn't even can't even compete against a Landers or a Bobcats team. So at the moment right now, they're in my number 10 spot, and unfortunately, you were right.
Chase, I'm glad you came to your senses. And look, I hate to be right. I hate to be right about something like this. I'm good friends with Carson. The Amigos are a storied franchise, so I
Well,
think it's always good when they're doing well in the league. But yeah, it's not a good team, and yeah, I'm glad you see that now. But for me, I have the Amigos a little bit lower. I have a different team here in the
ooh,
10 spot. I have the Defenders here in that 10 spot, and they are going to move up. And you're like, Ashton, why are you moving teams up after they lost in their 0-3? I don't think shuffling around the 0-3 teams is going to do too much harm. I needed to correct this. This has been needed to be corrected. This is not an 0-3 team. I know they are, but this is not an 0-3 team. They're going to game 7. They're going to game 7, and they're playing good teams, right? Or at least decent teams, better than the bottom of the barrel. The thing with the Defenders, they've proven that they can win games. They just can't close series out. And I think when we're this far down in the power rankings, those little details do matter, because I look at like an Amigos team, they can't prove that they can score goals regularly, that they can outscore their opponents, and that they can win games. Week 1 they did, but that was with their backup. With their starters, they can't do anything, which is kind of strange, but that's kind of the dynamics of everything. But yeah, the Defenders, to me, they've proven they can win games. They just need to close series out. The underlying stats, they aren't terrible. I mean, -12 goal differential is bad, but when you're comparing it to the Amigos, who are at a -30 goal differential, and the Stars, who are currently at a -35 goal differential, there's levels to this. There's levels to this. The Defenders are not a worse team than the two teams behind them on the power rankings, and I just
well,
had to move them up.
I mean, I have the Defenders in my number 11 spot, and the only reason that they're not jumping the Amigos
They already fell
is
too
it comes
much.
back. It comes back to the strength of schedule. The Amigos have literally played my top 3 teams, and yes, they have gotten built. So there's a reason why they're here at 10. But you look at the Defenders; they've played mid-tier teams, and they have competed. But I just think the Migos, like the talent on that team is still there. I mean, these play we're only in week 4 now, so we still. I mean, this is like the last call. This is the last. Okay, like really got to really pick it up. And the only reason why the Amigos find themselves above the Defenders here is because the Defenders have played mid tier teams, and the Amigos have played my top 3.
Fair
So
enough.
it's kind of just like that. I don't mind these being flip flopped. I can obviously understand it, but the Defenders, there's not a lot to talk about other than the fact that they make this trade. But again, it's just like they're active. Like that team is constantly changing. Like we don't know what the Defenders have really solidified. So again, moving into this week, they have a good chance to kind of pick things up. I mean, we look again. We'll talk about that later today. But they do play against a good team this week. So it just depends. What can the Defenders? They haven't. They're again the 0-3 speaks for itself too. So, anyways, they're at my number 11.
Yeah, you're right. And I do hear you're saying. I think you make a good point. I think for me, the biggest thing that I wrote down and could not get past for the Defenders is that they are 2 better game 7s away from being 2-1. And we're having an entirely different conversation about this team. That's where I stand on this. It's almost a matter of coin flips, where this team could be in a playoff spot right now. Had two games, not series, 2 games within a series gone a little bit better for them and gone their way. So that's why I have to move them up above the Amigos. The Amigos, they haven't really proven much of anything, but the strength of schedule case is a good one. Yeah, I do have the Amigos at 11, and really the only thing to say here is they're better than the Stars. That we can say that. Yeah,
Yeah,
they
just throw the stars out there.
listen,
Dude. Just
listen.
go ahead and throw the stars
I
out
mean,
there.
there's no need to. I'm just gonna go ahead and throw them up on both of our power rankings
Yeah,
because I mean
yeah.
it's obvious who it is, and there's no other teams left to put there. But yeah, I mean, Stars are the Amigos abysmal underlying stats. Yes, they've played good teams. Negative 30 goal differential. They've been swept 2 weeks in a row. They have not seen a game win since week 1. It
No,
has
they
been
haven't. They
a
didn't. They didn't
long
win in
time.
week 1. They lost the coin flips 4-0, dude.
No, 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 no. I'm talking about the defenders or the Amigos right now. Sorry. I'm talking about the
Oh, sorry.
Amigos. Amigos have
Sorry.
been swept 2 straight games, right? I mean, I understand the Stars haven't won a single game all season long. I understand that. But the Amigos, yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. I'm excited for
It's
the
a
week
coin toss
4
between the
schedule.
defenders.
I don't know if you've looked at it entirely there, Chase, but we do have
No.
the Toilet Bowl this week as the Amigos and Stars
dear
will be
God.
playing. And it's going to be fireworks. It's going to be everything we've wanted it to be. And it's going to be.
There's a reason why that game is not being streamed.
There's a reason why it's being streamed. And it's being streamed from 3 different perspectives as well. No. But it's going to be interesting to see. I think we'll learn a lot about the gap between like a team like the Amigos or the Defenders and the Stars. Like, is there a gap? Is there levels to the levels of the bad teams? I don't know. We'll find out.
I mean, the Stars are in their own universe, bro. I don't know. But anyways, with those power rankings in mind, let's go ahead and go over our week 4 predictions, Ashton. I'll go ahead and start us off here with the first match of this week happening tonight. Bandits, Volts.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I've mentioned it. This Volts team, they're going to win in my opinion. I'm confident in this Volts team just to show up and win. But I'm honestly confused about how they're going to win this, and like in the sense of how many games does it take? Because again, I think this Bandits team is getting better and better. They are in my 6, so they are in a playoff spot. So this is a playoff team, but it's just this is how we're gonna really tell the gap. And I think we've already seen it a little bit, but I still think this Volts team is gonna get it done. I'm going to give the Bandits a little bit of leeway here. I'm gonna say the Volts win it in 6, but I think that's just because the Bandits are getting a little bit better each week.
Yeah, that's fair. I think for me the focus here, I have the Volts winning as well. I think the focus is not so much on the Volts because we know what they can do. The focus is on the Bandits and what they can do. Is this going to be a situation where the Bandits get absolutely mollywopped and it's not even close? Or are the Bandits going to take some games off of them, maybe take them to overtime, score some nice goals on them, potentially send it to 6 or 7 games? Who knows, maybe even win. That part, a little bit unlikely. I don't think it's going to happen. I really want to say that this team could come in there and win it, but I genuinely don't know if they're capable of it as it stands right now. Just because of how good this Volts team is.
I don't think there's a lot of teams that are capable of beating this Volts team, so...
I think there's 2 right now, and that's it. That's it.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, and we look at the next one there, Ashton.
Mm-hmm.
It's this is the lottery game, we'll call it. This is the whoever wins this loses the lottery.
That's basically what it is, yeah.
But at the same time, I still think the Amigos, this is their last shout for, if they don't win here, you don't progress in the season. That's where you just start the tanking, right? But this is, I mean, as crazy as this, I mean, the 11th ranked team in your book against the 12th team. This is a blowout. I mean, this is going to be a blowout. It's going to be 4-0 Amigos. I mean, the Stars have no chance. I'm just, I don't know how this team actually even, and brother, it's like a G League team playing in the big leagues, dude. This is like, dude, drop them into
Cadillac
the college.
in Formula One right now.
Drop them into the college, bro. Yeah, like Cadillac, bro. I mean, it's bad, dude. The Stars, they're not winning a game. And this is the Amigos, who is in my 10th and your 11th. So, anyways, I have Amigos winning.
Yeah, I do too. It's I don't know. There's not too much to be said. I think the Amigos, at least they're like an actual team that has players that show up to their matches. I think the Stars, their focus, I've said it before, it's got to be on like lock in your two starters and be consistent and get reps with them. Like play for your pride as well. Like I know some of the guys on the Stars roster and they're incredibly capable players. Like just to start off, K-Dog's incredibly capable player, veteran in the league. And I know the guy they drafted, Cup, from what I understand, he's been to the finals in other leagues before. Once again, a capable player. What's happening? Why is none of it coming together and materializing? I think they just need to actually find their two starters, take it seriously, get some reps in, practice, get your hours up, and things could turn around. But as it stands right now, yeah, the Amigos, they're a team. They're a team and they're playing games. And yes, they've had to play the top two teams in the league the past 2 weeks, but this is where they rebound. This is where they can get into the win column. And who knows, maybe this can be the spark that they need moving forward.
Yeah, and this is again a great way to spark up some more wins going and progressing in the season. But now I think this is going to be probably the matchup of the week.
It's
And
important.
yeah, it's definitely important. We've touched on it. It's a pivotal match. This is between the Landers and the Bobcats. And Ashton, let me just say something real quick.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this messes up your stream. I had told Ashton before this that I had the Bobcats winning in this series. I had the Bobcats beating the Landers. But I'm going to go ahead and switch that. I'm going to pick the Landers
I'm on it,
to
bro.
beat the Bobcats because the Bobcats have given me no reason to pick them. They've beat my number 11th ranked team. Okay. You beat my number 11th ranked team. Whatever. All right. And then you also win a coin flip against the Stars. You don't even show up. So there's where your second win comes in. And even if you played it, it's the Stars. But then in week 3, you lose to the Elite. They haven't given me a strong reason at all to pick them. And I mean, this is the battle of talking, right? You have the cockiness from the Bobcats, and then you have, some talk there from the Landers. But I think the Landers have the best player in this series, which is Zach, right? He's gonna go in. I think he's gonna control this series, and I think the Landers. It's still gonna be close. Don't get me wrong. This is the midfield battle, right? But at the same time, I have the Landers kind of pulling up the upset because I have them lower on my power rankings. But I just think this Bobcats team has not given me a fair reason to pick them, and I'm more confident in the Landers right now. So I'm going to go ahead and pick the Landers.
Yeah, super fair, super fair. I do hear what you're saying. I've mentioned it before, Zach. He's got more that he can give, and I do stand by that. I think the Bobcats have a player in a similar position who's Chris. I think Chris has more to give. If you look at the stats, Zev has been playing pretty well. Eye test, it's been hit or miss. I think Chris is going to be the player that swings this match because the Landers have at least played decent enough to win series against decent teams. The Bobcats haven't really played any decent teams yet, so or no, they have, and they lost to the Elite. So I don't know. I have the Bobcats winning this. Something about this tells me this is a game where there's a little bit more involved, and I think the Bobcats are in desperate need of some genuine motivation to get them to A, take this more seriously, and B, actually perform well. So I think they have both of those things, and going into this match, the talent, I think it's going to carry them through. And I'm not saying the Landers aren't talented. I just think that there's an MMR difference here, and I do think the Bobcats are going to take it.
Yeah, I do. The MMR does play a big role in this, and I think, like you said, this is a good way to also, for talking about sparking up a team, the Bobcats need it now, and this would be a great win because then they would move to 3-1, which is still pretty strong. But again, like I mentioned, the last 3 weeks they haven't given me a real reason. But anyways, the next matchup, Eradicators Elite. Again, I know I went in pretty heavy on the Eradicators, but as it stands right now, they're still they're still a great team. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick the Eradicators. I think they haven't really. Again, it was scary against Quantum last week, right? They went to 7, but again, they pulled it back together. Eradicators were able to get that win, edge that win out, and now they play against a team that's in my opinion, a little bit worse. So it might be a little bit easier, but I have the Eradicators winning this one.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing as you. I have the Eradicators winning this, and to me, I look at it as they just played a really close and intense 7 game series. But those games 6 and 7 were not close, Chase. Those were the Eradicators waking up and realizing that they had let things get too far. And no disrespect to Quantum, but they were absolutely outmatched in those games 6 and 7. And right now, we're talking about a team that is ranked higher on both of our boards than the team they're about to play. So for me, it's not about the Elite being a bad team. I think the Elite are a quality team, and I think we could see something similar happen where to what Quantum did last week. I think we could see the Elite take them to a game 6 or a game 7, and that would not be crazy to me. But I do think the Eradicators are going to win it regardless.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. Honestly, I mean again, like we said, this has potential like the Quantum series. It could go to 6 or 7. But as we move on talking about Quantum, we have them against the Defenders. Um, and I think this is again, Ashton, going along your book. This is a big opportunity here for the Defenders. They played against the Bobcats. They've played against the Stars, which, whatever. They haven't played real big competition. Um, if I'm correct on that. I don't. Yeah, they played against the Bandits, which it was not a great game. But they make that trade. So this game revolves around this trade. I think this is the real Defenders team we're gonna have to watch. And I still have Quantum winning this. I think Quantum, they're just
Mm-hmm.
on such a high right now. But I think in your book too, this is your dark horse team. I think this could be Defenders' real good chance to make a name.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm looking for the Defenders to play well here. And unfortunately, in a case where it's like they've looked good and they just needed one more game to get over the hump, their competition is getting harder. Like this is like the one of the better teams they've played. So it's not like this is going to be an easier chance for them to win that game 7 if they make it there. I don't think it's going to be as close. And yes, I do like them as far as like a best of the rest type of a deal. But I think Quantum are going to take this, and I don't think it'll be too hard.
Yeah, no, I don't know if I mentioned the series score or not. I have Quantum winning in 5, but that's another story. Uh, but and then we look into our last matchup here, right? It's Riot and Fire. Again, I'm not gonna say too much. I think the Fire's gonna win this one. But what's your thoughts on this series?
Well, I think that the Riot need to be given the respect going into this match. I think even I was a little bit guilty of looking at this and being like, "Oh, Fire," and I was like, "Oh, wait a second. This is a decent Riot team. They've played good teams, so I think it's important for the Fire not to underestimate their opponents. I think the more serious the Fire take this match, the faster it'll be over. I think that's kind of an issue with other teams like Bobcats, Landers. They're not taking things seriously. They're like, "Oh, this will be GG easy." Like, "Oh, no problem," and then they end up going like the distance or losing the series, and it's like always a head scratcher. It's like, okay, so if it was so easy, why did that game just go to 7? If they're so free, why did you just lose 4-1 to them? Why exactly did that happen if they're so easy? So I think again, too much talk. I think the Fire and Chase specifically are really good about not over talking and under walking, and like having respect for your opponents and understanding that the more you take them seriously, the better your results going to be. So I have the Fire winning this.
Yeah, I mean that is a fair take. I think the Riot, they have a lot to prove. This would be a great win for the Riot if they pull it out. Right? This would boost the rankings 100%, but also just boost the confidence. And it is word that Apple and Gideon are getting the start. So we will not see any performance from Rich yet. But again, this Riot team, they have a lot to prove, and a lot of these teams have a lot to prove. It seems like we're pretty even again in our predictions, but we do have one flip flop, so
Yep.
we'll at least have someone in the lead and someone losing in our predictions. If you guys don't know, by the end of the regular season, me and Ashton are competing to see who has the better record.
It's
But
true.
um, yeah, no, this is week 4. We have a lot in store. And I want to mention this now just because I feel like people might not know. Week 7 is something to keep an eye out for. We've seen, again, we talked about a trade happening this last week. We've seen many trades happen within the last, couple weeks. Well, the trade deadline is week 7. So these teams, they are getting better, but by week 7, those rosters are locked in.
Yep.
Right? And so we'll obviously, when week 7 comes around, we'll get more into that. We'll get into more discussions on that. But if you're a team, you look at these teams now, we're in week 4. We're past the halfway point to the trade deadline. So just kind of talking about Riot and Defenders here, like they're switching up. They're still trying to find their groove. Well, you gotta hurry up and make that decision and start getting better with someone, right? Because as we're in week 4 now, these predictions obviously, there's some differences, right? There's some teams that look better than others, but week 4 now, be lookout for other trades. But when week 7 comes around, we have a trade deadline. So
True.
that's just something to keep in the back of your mind when you think about these teams. In my opinion, is like you still see teams figuring it out, but week 7 comes around. Now we have real serious series going on, right? There's no more experimental stuff going on.
Yeah, that's a great point.
So, well, ladies and gentlemen, that is our week 4 predictions and episode 4 of the RLSA Today podcast. So we appreciate everyone coming in and tuning in, watching us talk about, whatever's going on in the RLSA. Ashton, thank you for joining me
Of course.
on this lovely afternoon here on Monday. And as we wrap things up, we'll be back here next week, hopefully. And I don't know how long Mondays will continue to be happening. There will be some changes, so we'll get to that when that happens. But thank you guys for watching, and we will see you guys for the next presentation of the RLSA. So have a good one, everyone.
Later.